Welcome. My name is Natalie Mack, and I am the HSLDA Military Community Outreach Coordinator. Our topic today is navigating Tricare for our special needs military connected child. This is our fourth Facebook Live on special needs military homeschooling. To all my fellow military homeschoolers joining us on Facebook, we're so glad that you're here. Will you please go ahead and let us know in the comments where you are joining from, what duty station you're joining from. And also, please be sure to put any questions that you have for our guest in the comments. We're going to save a little bit of time later to get to those comments. If you are watching the replay, we appreciate you watching it. Please go ahead and also feel free to put comments or questions that you have in the comment section. And we try to go back and follow up periodically to see if we need to respond to any questions that you have. So welcome. When you come in, let us know where you are joining from. So let's discuss what Tricare exactly is, if we can define it, right? Who knows? But I went to their website, and according to their website, Tricare is the healthcare program for uniformed service members, retirees, and their families around the world. Their mission is to enhance the Department of Defense and our nation's security by providing health support for the full range of military operations and sustaining the health of all those entrusted to our care. Their vision is to build a world-class healthcare system that supports the military mission by fostering, protecting, sustaining, and restoring health. The challenge with Tricare on our side as military families is understanding how to navigate those benefits for our families. And families with special needs children often struggle with the bottom line. So will Tricare cover my child's needs for evaluation, for treatment, for referrals, and durable medical equipment, or DME? So today, joining me is my fellow military homeschooler, Marilee Price. Marilee and I met because we both are homeschooling in the Fort Belvoir, Virginia community. We also are both Navy chaplains' wives. She's active, and I'm recently retired Navy. I know she has the patience of Job when it comes to navigating Tricare. She may not feel that way sometimes, but I wanted to give her the opportunity to share with us and to answer any questions that we have. So thanks, Marilee, for accepting my guest invitation. Would you go ahead and share with our viewers about your family? And as you all are coming in, let us know where you're coming from. I see Fredericksburg, Candace, hello, Quantico. I see Las Vegas, Nellis, thank you so much. I'm assuming Nellis Air Force Base, and thank you for coming on in. But yeah, if you can go ahead and let us know, Marilee, tell us a little bit about you and your family.
Well, thanks for having me, Natalie. My husband is a Navy chaplain. We have been active duty for 11 years now. We have second career for us. So this has been, we have 7 children. We've been homeschooling for 18 years. We've graduated 3. Hopefully we'll be graduating our 4th next year. We'll see, because, homeschooling is what it is, and we do what's best for them at this time.
Exactly. That is awesome. Yeah. Anything else that you wanted to share? I didn't mean to cut you off if you were still sharing. That's awesome. Because with homeschooling, that's why we homeschool, to be able to meet those needs and make those decisions. Mm-hmm. So I love to hear when moms are okay with that. That's a hard thing to cross over to become okay with it, right? Yeah. Because our mindset typically is this next step is finish high school and go on to whatever. But sometimes we need to slow it down a little bit.
And that becomes really important when we're talking about, especially our children with special needs. It was our youngest who really threw us into the special needs community. He's 4. He was our big surprise baby. Yes. And he was diagnosed with Down syndrome while I was pregnant, while we were in Okinawa, Japan.
Okay. In Oki. We were just talking about Oki,
yes,
right?
We were.
All right. Yes, definitely. Okay. I hear what you're saying. I see we have some coming in from Amarillo, Texas, retired Air Force on Tricare Select. Okay. Ellsworth. Hello, Maureen. I see Debbie's coming in from Las Vegas. Go ahead and put any comments, any questions you have as you come on in, and we will get to those in a bit. So I'm so glad you're here, Marilee, to speak with us about this so I can share my own family's challenges navigating TRICARE. It's particularly getting that durable medical equipment. Our middle son's, he was born with congenital bilateral cataracts, which is really rare. People are probably like, okay, does that mean he was born with cataracts? Yes. He was born with cataracts, and they were removed at 2 months of age. And over the years, it's been multiple surgeries. And, I traveled that journey of advocating for him and just trying to get that next treatment or that next evaluation or that next durable medical equipment. So I'm thankful that you agreed to come on and share, because I wanted our guests to hear from more than just me about it. And I know that others that are joining us have their own experiences. So I'm really excited about the conversation. So tell us a little bit, what are some of your experiences and that you've dealt with TRICARE, and how have you found solutions?
We've had a variety. We've had things go super smoothly where, referrals get put in, diagnoses are made, it just goes, and I barely have to do a thing. And then we just had a situation where it took us 10 months to get a stroller, and it got rejected time after time after time. So we've kind of run the gamut depending on what the situation has been, who's looking at referrals and requests and authorizations. Who puts in the information.
Right. Who puts in, and often it's how it's worded to get the next person that has to approve it. And so that's why I said you have the patience of Job, because I was kind of periodically following you, with the stroller and you kept at it, you kept going and going. And that's what we do, right? As moms, and particularly military moms, we just know that we just have to sometimes continue to advocate. And as homeschoolers, we definitely understand that. So that's why I said that about you. And I know sometimes you don't feel that way. Like you probably said, it was really challenging. You said 10 months that you pursued getting the stroller. And what was the importance of the stroller? Tell us a little bit about that, specifically for families that may not understand why were you pursuing getting a stroller?
So our youngest son is Micah. His low tone makes it more difficult for him to walk long periods. He's not as mobile as what most 4-year-olds would be. And we have a lot of teenagers. We like to be out and about. We want to take them, here in DC, going down to the mall and to the Smithsonian's and out on hikes and stuff. And he just can't keep up. And about a year ago, he had a huge growth spurt, and we realized he was going to outgrow his normal Graco stroller relatively soon. But he was just not going to be anywhere near the point where he could keep up with us without something else. And so we needed something bigger that would support him and provide him with a little bit more of that physical support that he needs because of some of those medical needs that he has.
Okay. And so it took you about 10 months to kind of get that finally, and you did receive the stroller.
We finally received it. I think we started the process last March, and I got it a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And hopefully that encourages families that are struggling with getting and advocating. Don't give up. Do not give up. So anyone joining us, go ahead and let us know where you're joining us from, and any questions you have, put them in the comments. So let's talk a bit about advocating for referrals. The hard part, right? Well, all of it's hard. That's why we're having a conversation, right? But getting referrals. So do all referrals need to go through your PCM, your primary care manager?
With Prime, for the most part, they do. Eventually the PCM has to sign off on just about everything. The only exceptions we've run into is when I have a military specialist who's referring to another military specialist. So we just had our GI had referred us to ENT, and that did not need to go through the the PCM.
Okay.
But that stayed all within the military system, and they took care of a lot of that paperwork and navigating all of that for me. Everything else, we've had to go back to his primary care physician and get him to sign off on it.
Okay. Now, the challenge I know, and at least from my experience, and anyone joining, if you want to comment about this too, I'm sure it's common. Challenge is you are assigned a PCM, right?
Mhm.
So, and when they change, you get that notification. Hey, by the way, your PCM
Mhm.
changed, right? And so we've had some really good PCMs, and we've had some that are like, nothing's wrong with whatever, you
Yeah.
don't really know what you're talking about,
Mhm.
mama. And nothing that just is so infuriating for me as a mom because we know our children, right? And yes,
Mhm.
something is going on, and I need you to, even if you don't see it as the PCM, I need you to believe me and put in that
Yeah.
referral so we can move on past you
Yeah.
to someone who can really
Mhm.
help, right? So your experiences, the PCM you have now has been working pretty well with you, and how's that
Yeah. He's done really well, but when we first moved here, the first PCM we were assigned to was very difficult to work with.
been? Yes. Yeah.
Um, she, we just got the feeling that we were more of a difficulty than somebody who she was willing to help. And
Mhm.
so I asked around, and we actually changed him from one military facility to another one to get him to a pediatrician who we had heard would work really well with him, was willing to listen to mom and dad,
Right.
and to look at the whole child, not look at him as a diagnosis or just somebody who is going to be a lot of paperwork. You
Exactly.
can advocate for changing your doctor, changing the hospital you're going to. We had to sign a waiver because we're now driving about 40 minutes to get into his PCM, but like
Okay.
the quality of care makes that worthwhile.
Makes it worthwhile. So
Yeah.
did you end up going from Fort Belvoir to Walter Reed? Is that
Walter
where you
Reed.
have to go
Yeah.
to Walter Reed?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. And yeah, that can be really challenging. Also, that process of getting your PCM changed because
Mhm.
sometimes they're waitlisted, they aren't open, to accepting more. So you'll
Mhm.
be told, no, that person isn't, the system won't allow that
No,
process or
yeah.
that change to go through.
Yeah.
Um, so, well, that's good information to know that at least families that may not even know that you can submit that request to
Yeah.
change the PCM. It may not get approved and it may not happen
Mhm.
quickly, but you definitely can. And so, and
Yeah.
here in the National Capital Region, the NCR, it's like there's, the Walter Reed, right? Which
Mhm.
our youngest daughter was born at Walter Reed, the old Walter Reed that is now the same Walter Reed, but on Bethesda, right? Part of Bethesda Naval. So
Mhm.
I was laughing with someone the other day, is only military families can, and they said, now what's the actual name now? And I said, I think it's Walter Reed Army Medical Center at Bethesda Naval Air Station. I think
I don't think it's
something
Army
like
because
that.
it's now a joint
It's
Army Navy
got it.
hospital. I think
Okay.
it's just
So it's
yeah,
Walter Reed Medical Center,
medical
maybe.
center. Yeah.
But that's the name, yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's like, okay, so where is it now? So, but yeah, that's definitely part of living here in this area.
Mhm.
You have more resources. Some of our families are stationed in more remote areas, which makes it really, really difficult.
Mhm.
And we know we don't control the orders we
No.
get. We can at the officer level, I know you can put in some requests, but you still don't get what you want oftentimes, right?
No.
So you don't know what you're going to be handed, right?
Mhm.
And what you're going to have to deal with. Have you been in a location where maybe the medical resources weren't all that you maybe
We Yeah,
needed or
we
wished for?
were, but it was before our youngest was born.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it was before they had this, before we were able to just change which TRICARE plan we were on at any
Oh,
time.
yes.
So
Yes.
when I ran into problems where we could not find care with Prime, I made the call, switch this to standard, and we just started going to whoever I wanted
Yeah,
to.
yeah, right. You were able to go, right.
Yeah.
I see, yeah, I see comments coming in. Thank you all. When you're coming in, just let us know where you're joining from. And if you have any comments you wanted
Mhm.
or questions that you have for us. So I appreciate this conversation. So we're going to keep on going. Let me see. Uh, let's talk about any tips that you may have about getting that PCM to put in the right referrals. Is there anything any magic that you've been able to like figure out what works or not? And there may not be anything because we just had a little bit of conversation right about PCM.
Mhm.
So
Um, I think the first thing is to be really specific about your concerns and who you want to see. To give broad generalities, a lot of times you're just going to get pushed off to the side. But if you can come to this and say, hey, I'm noticing A, B, C, and D. This is what my concern is. This is what we want to go see. It makes their job a little easier for them.
Right.
And if you can have, especially if you want to go see a civilian provider, if you have a name, a address, phone number, because they can put all that into their referral request if they want them referred to this specific provider. When we've had those times, I've had much better success in getting things through quickly when I can tell the PCM, I want to go to this doctor at this facility, and they're like, fine, great, and it gets sent out. Sometimes I've got to go back to Tricare and say, hey, the doctor said we were supposed to go here, and they'll look back usually at that initial referral and go, oh yeah, we put you to the wrong person. Right. But yeah, giving your PCM as much information as possible really helps. And if you can't get it through the PCM, I'm finding often if you go to one of the nurses and talk with them directly, they have a way of being able to talk to those doctors to get them to put in what needs to be done, that sometimes we as parents just don't have that same ability to.
Same ability, right, right. They have that influence sometimes to be able to. So be kind to the nurses and get a nurse to be very kind, right? That's what we get from this. Be very kind, because they actually can, and that is so true. Sometimes it's really hard to reach the doctor.
Yeah.
And now we have, I don't know if it's still called Relay Health, but you can send messages. And oftentimes it's the nurse that's responding. So be really kind and see if you can get what you need through that. And I do agree totally with having specific information, specific doctors that you want to be, put in the referral for, definitely. So that has made a big difference in our experience as well.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about DME and durable medical equipment. And I'll talk a little bit more about my experience, but, and we talked about the stroller. Has there been any other experiences that with securing other DME?
So actually, this last year has been very big on DME for us. Micah made that transition from being an infant and toddler to be getting into the preschool. He had a huge growth spurt, so he started outgrowing all of those infant and toddler supports that we had been using.
Wow.
So in the last year, we've gotten an activity chair for him, an adaptive tricycle, a safety bed, the bicycle. And then a year and a half ago, he got an AAC device for communication.
Okay.
So some of those go through just regular Tricare. Anything that is medically necessary goes through Tricare. The bed went through Tricare. The stroller went through Tricare, and the AAC device did, because all of those are required so that he could safely sleep, he could safely get around, so that we could support medical needs that he had.
Okay.
The second, and then along with that is Echo. If you're enrolled in EFMP as active duty, get Echo, because it's that supplementary insurance, and they will help cover a lot of those things that Tricare will not. And that was where we got the activity chair and the adaptive tricycle for him. Those have been amazing, especially as a homeschooler, because like activity chair, he can now sit and work on a puzzle and he can color, whereas he couldn't sit at a children's table because he physically could not hold his body to be able to do that long enough to be able to attend to a task.
Right. Wow. Now, I had never heard of Echo. That is, wow. Okay. I missed that piece. As my son got older, we didn't need it.
Yeah. Echo is only for active duty. You have to be enrolled in EFMP, but if you have a child with special needs, you're supposed to be anyway. There's no additional monthly fee, but there is a copay monthly copay for the months that you use it. And that's based off of rank.
Okay.
And it's very reasonable.
Very reasonable.
Yeah.
Wow. And how do you find out about or get enrolled and find out if you're eligible? Because we've been retired a year, but we were enrolled in EFMP. We Hmm.
Um,
We really didn't. As my son got older, we really didn't. Well, we still had the DME, but that can go through Tricare, so maybe
it can't,
maybe that's
yeah.
why. Yeah.
So we actually had a great EFMP coordinator when Micah was born. We were actually at an Air Force hospital. And so when we
Okay.
got him enrolled with EFMP, she also handed me the paperwork for Echo. And she's like, you may
Oh,
not want this
great.
now, but you're going to want it later. And she was right. Like it's been wonderful.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. That's great. Yeah, I see a comment, and I'm going to get to the comments later. So I'm
Mhm.
not ignoring the comments, you all. I'm going to get to them, but I did see one that popped up that said, had
Yeah.
not heard of Echo either before.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're sharing. That's why we want to do these, is get the
Echo will
information.
also help cover things like diapers.
Okay.
Which we would qualify for now, but our copay is more than what we're paying for diapers for him, so it's not worth it for us yet.
Right.
And there is also a respite care program that also comes through Echo. We haven't used that yet, but yeah,
Wow.
having Echo is definitely worthwhile.
Wow. Now, let me ask you a question, because I know it's not part of our script, but when you mentioned Echo and the respite, is that in addition to respite that EFMP provides, or
Yes,
or is
yeah.
it respite under Echo?
So there is respite care under Echo. We haven't used it yet, so I'm not too sure
Okay.
exactly how it works. But that's in
Okay.
addition to respite care that might be provided like through your branch. I know
Right.
we just started getting respite care through the Navy. That's something
Okay.
that's very specific to the Navy. My understanding is Air Force and Army don't have that same type of program.
Oh, interesting.
Mhm.
Interesting. Yeah, because I do remember being told that we had that
Yeah.
um, respite. We never actually ended up using it, but it was nice to know that it
Yeah.
was there.
And
Definitely.
wait lists for that can be really long. We got Micah onto it thinking, my husband will be operational again in another year. I'm going to be on my own with all of these kids in homeschooling. And
Yeah.
we got pulled up on the wait list much, much sooner than we had thought.
Oh,
But
good.
yeah, it's a
Good.
great resource to have.
Yeah, definitely. All the resources that you can have in your
Yeah.
pocket, right? We need it as
Yes.
military families. We need it. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about therapies. What type of therapies have you been able to secure for your son? And is there a specific process? I know through the PCM and all.
Yeah, therapies go through PCM just like any other specialist would. We've been using physical therapy since he was 3 months old, occupational therapy since I think he was 6 months old.
Mm.
Speech we've been doing since about 9 months old. And we also have feeding now also.
So are those when our middle son, the one who actually was enrolled in EFMP, we
Mhm.
were at, where were we living then? Where were we stationed, right? Military families have to remember, where were we stationed, right? Yeah. Okay, Camp Pendleton. And
Mhm.
so California provided therapists to come to the house for some
Mhm.
of the therapies that my son needed at the time. So have you been able to have in-house uh, in-house
So
therapy?
those are two separate programs. So usually the ones from the state, they are run by the state, those early intervention programs.
Okay.
When we were in Ohio, we did use some of those,
Okay.
but found they were only coming to the house once every 6 weeks.
Oh,
With
wow.
when you have a child who
Wow.
is going to have developmental delays and has issues like that, just isn't enough. And so
Right.
we were able through Tricare to get weekly private therapies on top of the county services.
Okay. Okay.
So
Wow.
he's now aged out of early intervention. So right now
Right.
everything is private.
Yeah. We still are in contact with our early intervention therapist that
Oh,
came to the houses, and when she sees pictures of my son, she's like, "I can't believe that's little Bobby." Like, I'm like, he's much taller than I am now.
yeah.
So, but yeah, it was just the support of someone coming. We
Mhm.
had other kids. It was just busy. The dog was barking.
Yeah.
The toddler, the baby. It was just a lot, and so just
Mhm.
having another adult come. I mean, I probably got uh, like adult to adult therapy, right?
Mhm.
While she was working
Right.
with him, I was talking like a mile a minute, just like, oh,
Yeah.
another adult during the day. So I
Yeah.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
So
talking with therapists here, and he was in a research study through University of Pittsburgh a year ago. But I've been asking therapists and private therapists, like, we need more in-home therapy, because having those therapists after 3-year-old being able to come to the house and work with them in our own home would just be priceless.
I know. Especially, for us that homeschool who,
Mhm.
have the ability to be home during
Yeah.
the day. We can
Yeah.
choose if we're going to
Yes.
do co-op
Yeah.
5 days a week and that we're gone, right? We can make those choices. And so
Mhm.
we can definitely, have that day where we don't have to go out of the house for another
Yeah.
appointment. I remember the surgery appointments and the therapies and all, and packing up. We were, like I said, at Camp Pendleton when the son that has was born with the cataracts was born. And so, you never know, right? When your child is
Mhm.
born, you don't always know in utero, like you don't know. This was
Yeah.
an unexpected
Mhm.
diagnosis. And I remember, the appointments and just medical appointments and then the surgery
Mhm.
ones. And we had 3 other children at the time. We ended up with our 5, but at the time we had 3, and just packing up everybody's, book bags with their school
Mhm.
books, and, if we want to go take lunch or were we going to buy lunch. And the kids always loved going down from Camp Pendleton down to Balboa. Was like an
Mhm.
hour,
Yeah.
on the California freeway, but they loved it because there was a Pizza Hut Express there. And there was a lady that had like a one of those mobile carts that were in the courtyard that sold candy. And so they were like, "Yay, we're going down and we're gonna get Pizza Hut." I'm personal fan, and you have the book it coupons. So
Mhm.
they were still young enough to use the book it coupons. They could get their Pizza Hut Express. And that was always the treat. Okay, we're gonna be in an appointment for a bit, but then y'all do your schoolwork. And then when we leave, we're gonna everybody get their coupon
Mhm.
out. Get the coupon and get a little bag of candy, nothing that's gonna keep them up all night, but enough
Yeah.
for that ride back.
Mhm.
And it was just life. It was just life.
Yeah.
And you didn't think twice about it. Once
Mhm.
you have your child, whether, born, from you or adopted or whatever, you just put in place what you need to do
Mhm.
and just implement and keep going. And
Yeah.
so, but it can be exhausting at the same
Mhm.
time.
Okay.
It can be
Well,
exhausting.
and we need to be willing to think outside of the box with a
Mhm.
lot of that. We recently just pulled Micah out of weekly therapy for most things because we discovered he just wasn't doing well in clinic. There were too many distractions. It wasn't like he enjoyed his therapist, but there was so much there that wasn't at home. He couldn't attend to what was going on.
Wow.
So we decided we would stop for a few months and see what happens. And they sent me back with a list of goals and some activities, and he took off. Like
Wow.
his development just went through the roof being at
Wow.
home. And so we've backed off, and what they told me is they needed me to check in about every 6 weeks or so that they could continue to send progress reports to Tricare, so that Tricare would
Mhm.
pay for um,
Mhm.
services. But we
Mhm.
go in, check in, they send me home with activities, and I come back and we work on those throughout the week. And so
Wow.
instead of running to therapy 5 times a week, we're
Right. Right.
going once every 4 to 6 weeks now. It has made a
Wow.
huge difference, and he's doing amazing.
Oh, that's so
Definitely
awesome.
not the right solution for every child and every family, but it's worked really well for us.
It's worked really well.
Yeah.
Definitely. Wow. That's awesome. I love hearing that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So, also, you just mentioned about getting that extension and how
Mhm.
they've been able, so they just check your progress and you get an extension for
Yeah.
therapy. So some
Mhm.
families are concerned about that. Like, will we be able to get an extension? We, as moms, we see that the therapy is working and we worry that it's going to be cut off, right? Like they're going to make the assessment that, oh, you've gotten enough, right? Or your
Mhm.
child is no need for speech anymore, and you're
Yeah.
thinking, no, there's still. So it can be something that is concerning to moms.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's where having a really good therapist and a good therapy practice comes in, because they should know how to write those progress reports, how to
Mhm.
set those goals, and use that wording that Tricare needs in order
Right.
service is going.
Right. Exactly. Again, we talked earlier, it's about the wording and
It's
having
all
someone.
about the wording. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. The buzzwords they're put.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was gonna say, and I mentioned about my son, we were referred out to Duke Eye Care Center in North Carolina, which was the best thing, and I'm just so thankful every time I think about it because that doctor is still practicing, believe it or not. We ended up calling her the Fruit Loop doctor because she knew like she's a pediatric glaucoma specialist, one of the top ones in the country. And she would have a jar of like Fruit Loops. And so
Mm-hmm.
my son was like, oh, we're going to see the Fruit Loop doctor, you know? And so he was fine. And, you know, children are so resilient. I used
Mm-hmm.
to, see what they had to do to check his eyes and all, and I was like squirmish myself, right? But he was just like, okay, no big deal. They just, they
Yeah.
just roll with it. And so, but these appointments at Duke often, they were often also surgery appointments, not just
Mm-hmm.
check-in, follow-ups.
Yeah.
And so that meant oftentimes overnight stays so that we could be there bright and early for that check-in, right, for surgery, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so has your family had to do any type of traveling for care?
So we have once when I was pregnant with him, we had to go from Okinawa to Hawaii for some of those prenatal screenings, some of those additional screenings that were needed to
Yes.
see exactly what we get an idea of what we were dealing with.
Right.
And I saw you wanted to talk about that, and I asked my husband, I was like, "Who paid for all that?" Because I was like,
right. That was the question.
at the time, I was in no shape to be dealing with all that. He's like, "I don't know."
Yeah.
I pulled up the Tricare website. Now, we worked through a coordinator at the Naval Hospital, and
Yes.
he did a lot of it for us. The
Okay.
Tricare website does say that all travel arrangements go through DTS.
Right. That's right.
And they will have to prove that there's medical necessity to do
Right.
it. And if you go to the Tricare website, there's a lot of forms there, and it really walks you through the process. It says you're going to fill out these forms, send it here, send out these forms, send it here.
Okay.
I have to remember, I don't remember too much about that. I know we went and we came back, and I didn't have to pay
Right.
anything for
You didn't have
it.
to write exactly. There wasn't a bill. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
I
probably
just
will
want.
be dealing with that soon. We're going through some more
Okay.
diagnoses right now, and more than likely, at least one of them is going to require some travel.
Some travel to get on the road.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I wanted to bring that up because when we found out about the reimbursement process, we had several trips at that point.
Mm,
And so a lot of families don't know that there is a process
there is.
that you can apply to get
Mhm.
reimbursed for the lodging and the mileage. And I think
Yeah.
there's a per diem as well. I can't
Yeah.
remember, but I think it's all included. And so, of course, medical necessity, you can't just say, oh, I'm just packing up and going to see
Yeah.
a doctor. It has to be, military.
Mhm.
We know what we're talking
Yeah.
about. The framework is military, but if it's approved, then you can definitely put in and see if
Mhm.
you can get reimbursed for that
Yeah.
because it is expensive. And
Yeah.
sometimes families, we're right military. It may be mom with a deployed sponsor
Mhm.
and several kids, and you don't have anyone to watch the children. I remember that too, where I was often on the road. My husband was deployed and I packed up everybody, and sometimes we had to stay overnight. So um, it gets expensive to have
Yeah.
to do that,
Oh,
right? Because
yeah. I would double check about being able to bring children. When we were sent to Hawaii, we had to get special permission from my husband to come with me, but we had to leave all the kids
oh
behind.
wow,
All of our kids had to be left behind in Japan. They
oh
we
wow,
we were not allowed to travel. Well, we could have flown them with us, but that was all going to be on our
got
dime.
it. That's
So I
probably
would,
maybe
yeah, I
because of the space A and all. Maybe, yeah, you want a medical, like a medical flight out, or
we just flew. I think we flew United. It was just a regular
just a
airline.
regular for
But
real?
yeah,
Okay, okay,
but what we'll get paid for, I'd ask a lot of questions and double check that
yes,
before you start bringing other children with you. Because our experience, they originally just wanted just me to go. They did not want my husband coming with me.
Oh,
And
interesting.
we
Wow.
pushed back on that, and we're like, he's dad. He needs to be there
He's
to make
dead.
decisions too.
Exactly. Right. I wonder, yeah, definitely always check and get the bottom line.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have the problem, but it could be who knows what, right? Just
Yeah.
check, right?
And we were
That's
going,
all.
yeah, and then we were overseas, so that's a whole nother, there's a
That's
whole nother level to that.
right. That's all. Yeah. And we really didn't even address that. We have on previous Facebook Lives had some of our topics have been about overseas. Like I think we did one on high school overseas, and we want to do more on that because that's another experience completely, right? And sometimes sometimes you have to be sent back, just like our wounded warriors. Sometimes, like if you're in Europe and you have Landstuhl, right, which is again like a Walter Reed or a Balboa, but sometimes they end up still sending you back here to Walter Reed or something for the care. So
Well, that was what happened with us.
okay,
Where I was sent away. The kids and I were actually moved off of Okinawa early to
wow,
move us back to the States so that he could be delivered here because the Navy
gotcha,
hospital there decided they were not comfortable having him delivered there.
got you.
And the decision was made it was best for us to come back. And so I moved back at 20. I was 29 weeks pregnant, moved back with
Wow.
6 kids.
Oh, and the thing is that we gotta love the military because they make these decisions, right? That you know they uh, they make the decisions that they say are the best for the needs of the family. But like, okay, really at 29 weeks with 6 kids and you're expecting, right? And then he
Yeah.
stays
He
there,
stayed
right?
behind.
Right.
Yeah,
So
he
it's
stayed
like,
behind.
okay, how do I feel helped, right? How do I feel helped by that decision?
Yeah.
I'm even more stressed now. So it's and all your things are still there at the
Mhm.
right? Because they're not
Yeah,
moving out.
our
So
stuff didn't make it back from Japan until Micah was, I think he was 8 weeks old by the time our stuff arrived from
wow.
Japan. So
Wow. 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 Yeah. Oh, gotta love it. Gotta love it. That's why I say we are so resilient as military families. I just love us so much. We go through a lot serving our country, and so many don't even have any idea of that side. So, well, if anyone that's joining, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. I see a few comments now. We're going to be wrapping it up, but I wanted to make sure I reminded everyone again, if you just joined us, welcome. You can watch the replay. It's been a great conversation. And if you have any questions, go ahead and put them there. And so we know we could just keep talking about the topic. Like I just mentioned, we didn't even cover a lot about overseas, but in general, we did cover, feel like we covered quite a lot of ground talking about I call it the beast that is Tricare, right? And so I really appreciate you. Thank you for joining us,
thank
Marilee.
you for having
I
me.
really appreciate this. So I hope this conversation has been informative for you watching the replay. So as military homeschooling families, we face unique challenges. And so this was one of them. And I wanted to just, bring it to the forefront and get a conversation going about it for support. So at HSLDA, we're working hard to develop resources that will help you find connection and encouragement, just such as this Facebook Live. We try to do these on a monthly basis. We also maintain a growing list of homeschool groups that you can search for overseas military support as well as CONUS stateside. And if you are a member of any of the support groups, I was just talking earlier with Marilee about New London and Groton and needing to find resources there. We're really working hard at HSLDA to just find us. I know we are hard to find. Like we don't know we're hard to find as military, but on the other side, when I'm working to find us, I'm like, goodness, we're hard to find. So please, if you are a leader of a homeschool group or you are in one, a military homeschool group specifically, please contact me at military@hslda.org. I love to get more groups listed. I am president at Fort Belvoir Home Educator, so our group is in there. So I'm leading the way. So I pass the torch to my fellow military homeschool support group leaders, please. There's lots of benefits as well. So you want to know what is in it for you, right? There's lots of benefits. Just contact me and I can definitely let you know the benefits that are made available through our group services and our attorney, Darren Jones. So we also have, as HSLDA members, you have access to great legal team. We have an awesome attorney staff, fantastic educational consultants, and that can actually help military families like ours with any questions or challenges that come up. We would love to be able to do that, even if you are overseas or stateside. I'll be doing some things with Okinawa Christian Military Homeschool Association. So when I say overseas, I really do mean that. And we have Darren Jones and I, who is the group services attorney. We've jumped on a Zoom at, I think, 8 o'clock at night to make contact and to provide support to groups overseas. So please don't hesitate to reach out if this would be helpful to you. Now, if you're not already a member, but you love all of what you've heard today and all of the benefits that I'm referencing, we would love for you to join us. So you can find out more to join at hslda.org/join. And obviously, because this is a military Facebook Live, I'm assuming that if you're military watching, you want to access the military discount that HSLDA offers. So that would be hslda.org/military discount. And again, my email is military@hslda.org. So it's really simple to find us. We also have all of our Facebook Lives live on our YouTube playlist. So we do, HSLDA has a YouTube channel. If you go there and click on the playlist, I believe our military one is right at the top, and you can find any of the previous Facebook Lives there as well. So again, I want to check the comments here and go ahead and before we close out and see what we have. Let me see here. Let me go back up to the top. I did see Candace and Debbie. Thanks for joining. Karen, I referenced her. Thank you so much. And okay, Debbie's at a Creech. Okay, and Ellsworth. Let's see what else. So Debbie says, we are a homeschooling family with 9 children. Most of our health needs we take care of naturally, but I have cardiac needs, having had 2 heart surgeries. My husband retires this summer, and we are trying to learn what that transition will look like for cardiac care. When I spoke with my provider last week, she had no idea. So I'm hopeful to get a better grasp on Tricare overall since we have used it so little. Wow, my heart goes out to you, Debbie, and I appreciate your service. Definitely as you approach retirement. My husband retired December 1 was a year, and there's so much to know in advance of retirement, and making sure that you have everything covered and as much of the paperwork complete. And definitely, hopefully, what we shared a little bit today has helped a bit. So that you can have a little bit of idea of what you need to do. There are transition programs, so if you aren't aware of them, definitely they are often in person, but I think during the COVID they were doing them virtual, so they may still be. Some depends on your duty station, I would imagine, but you can access those through the Transition Assistance Program. I think it's, well, for the Navy we call it TAP, but every service has some type of transition program. I don't know if you have anything at all, Marilee, that you want to speak to about that. If yeah.
We're
So
still away from retirement.
yeah, you're still away, right? I understand. I hear you. Karen Larson says, you might not know the answer, but when you have a child on both Tricare and Medicaid, which is the primary payee?
I don't know.
That's a good question. That is a good question. Don't know who the primary payee is. You're going to, if you are part of the, since we're doing this for special needs children, but this applies across the board, obviously. But if you are with the EFMP, I would say check with them to see if they can get that information, get that answer to you, because I really don't know. And I'm trying to think back on experience or with at least the Tricare Medicare. We took care of my mother-in-law for quite a while before she passed. So, and I don't remember. I thought Tricare paid first, but I don't know. So, and Medicare and Medicaid are totally different programs. I do know that. So, um, and then Debbie, of course, says she's not heard an echo, and she says it's spelled correctly, which I think it is
Yes.
ECHO, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So she's going to look into that. So Yeah, so definitely, I don't see any other comments or questions. Again, if you're watching the replay later, please go ahead. I'll make a point to come back. We do that periodically, check back and see if we need to answer or respond to any comments, but we appreciate you all joining us. Please go ahead and share this, even the replay. Just click the share, spread it into the military homeschool community. We really appreciate it. And Marilee, again, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate this. You've been just a wealth of information, and I'm sure that, the families that have heard it and that will listen, it will really have gotten quite a lot from it. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate your yes when I reached out. Take care. Thank you all.